Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talk Heathen. I am your host today, Objectively Dan, and joining me today is a very special guest host. It is content creator Jimmy Snow. Jimmy Snow, welcome to Talk Heathen.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I'm Jimmy Snow. I didn't know there would be cheering, but I do really like the photo we chose for the graphic. I wanted to go with who's this Alex Jones looking MFer?
Well, the cheering was just for you, Jimmy. You know, we
Yeah.
just put that in just so, you know, you could make you feel good about yourself. So I'm glad you're on. I'm glad to see you around. Oh,
I have this as a backup.
Yeah, you got your own sound effects, which is crazy and fun. And I'm a little scared how you're going to use them today, but we'll see how that happens. But Jimmy, how you been, man?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. It's been a minute since you and I have talked, at least, but I'm glad we're both hosting today for Talk Heathen. Folks, this is a live call-in show that we do live every Sunday, and right now we have totally open lines. So you guys should definitely call in to come talk to us because we want to talk to you. If it's about religion, if it's about atheism, it's about other kinds of crazy claims and stuff. I mean, we're willing to talk about, pretty much anything, right, Jimmy?
Yeah. Related to religion and stuff.
Yeah, related to religion and stuff. Not like everything.
Definitely.
I don't want to know about.
I have a hard limit on a lot of things I don't want to talk about.
Right.
My parents.
Yeah, that's one. I'm sure we could think of some other ones, but you guys get the idea. So definitely we have some open lines right now. You guys should definitely call in if you haven't. But first you should know that Talk Heathen is a product of the ACA, which is a 501c nonprofit dedicated to the promotion of positive atheism and separation of religion and government. So there are a couple different ways to support Talk Heathen in the ACA. You can become a member by clicking the join button below the video. You can support us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/talkheathen. And we have a channel that houses all the shows of the ACA, including another one called Truth Wanted, which you might have heard of. It's on the AEN Podcast Network. The link for that's in the description as well. And you can become a member of the Talk Heathen community in our fan-run Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Talk Heathen Talk Heathen FG, excuse me. It's fan groups. I always forget. Blech. And if you would like to continue the discussion after the show, I think Jimmy and I were going to be together in the after show. We'll see how that goes later today. Link for that is also going to be in the description for Discord. And you should also check out the newest version of the ACA show, The Nonprofits, which is going to be live at 3 p.m. after this show happens. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. And that's all the announcements I've got here, Jimmy. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I also will make it even more confusing by continuing to promote call-in shows. I run a channel called The Line, which some people have said is a ripoff of the ACA's programming, which is absurd because our show with Matt Dillahunty is on Wednesdays, not Sundays. So obviously it's totally different. But yeah, if you like these call-in shows, we do a show on Sundays. It's very similar to this lineup. We do Matt Dillahunty has his show, the Hang Up, on Wednesdays, and then on Saturdays, and Matt will forgive me for saying this is, I think so far, our best program. We run a show called Transatlantic, which is our two wonderful trans hosts, Katie Montgomery and Arden of Eden, and they take calls about trans issues and are even willing to take fights about trans issues. It's pretty great. So
hell yeah,
that's our channel, The Line.
Yeah, definitely you guys should check it out if you haven't already. And folks, this is usually when we start to take calls and stuff, but we still got a lot of open lines here. So this is the part where me and Jimmy just kind of have to make it up as we go along. What's up, Jimmy? How's it going? I know we were just talking about Pokemon earlier. You still on that Pokemon Go game? So rock it in.
It's probably running around here. Yeah. I'm one of the 9 people who still play Pokemon Go like crazy. And I'm used to this. What happens is they know they can't win, so people don't even try. They're like, I would call in, but right. Jimmy and Dan together. Oh, that's a tough combo.
That's a power couple. Power couple. That's what they say. So not me. That's not what I say. That's what they say, Jimmy. I just want to let you know. That's what they say.
If you're watching right now, you just send a text to your really boisterous father who's always telling you how silly you are for being an atheist. Just be like, hey, there's this call-in show right now. Go tell them what you told me.
Yeah. Group text your grandma's knitting circle and tell them to come watch this show and tell them all to call in at the same time. and we'll get them on a group chat and see what happens. You know,
totally.
I'd be interested in having that conversation.
I'm so down.
Yeah, we're seeing a couple people calling and going through the screen room, but again, we just need a few more calls from you guys before we really dive in and get started. Speaking of Pokemon, I got Pokemon Sword like a month ago, and I've played way too much of it. I've now got 370 Pokemon in the decks already, and I'm trying to get the rest. So, you know, that's that Pokemon grind, man. It's real.
When I pick up Sword, I'm usually there to do some shiny hunting, which isn't really hunting because the most reliable method is a breeding method. And so it's just like takes forever. And then I bought this thing that you can plug into it like a USB drive, and it pretends it's your controller. And so you can just have it keep going and getting eggs and then move around, and then it gets another egg and moves around.
Oh my God.
It is cheating, but
I was going to say, you're breaking the system. That reminds me of when I think it was Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out. They had the little Poke Walkers. You remember that? Yeah. You attached it. So the trick with that was you tape that to your ceiling fan and let that go around for a while to count your steps, which is probably the most American solution to a walking simulator problem. I'm not
going to actually do the walk. I mean, come on.
I remember that for sure. Yeah. But Pokemon's fun, but this isn't a Pokemon show. This is Talk Heathen. We're going to talk about religion. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff here. And we finally have a few calls coming in here. So I think we should get to some calls. You ready, Jimmy?
Yeah, for sure. All right. No, I think the ACA should consider having a Pokemon show.
A Pokemon spinoff show? What would that be like? I wonder. I don't know who else in the ACA plays Pokemon. We have to do a survey here. We'll figure that out later. But let's go ahead and get to some calls. I want to talk to Adam, who's calling in from North Carolina. Adam, you're live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Well, first off, I want to say I'm level 45 Mystic. So shout outs to Jimmy right there playing some Pokemon Go. And it's a 3x experience weekend. But I can get more to the topic here about the bad state of apologetics.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Sure. Well, what I've noticed, and I take part in a lot of YouTube debates, it's kind of sad actually, but when you try to pinpoint, there's a constant gish gallop. And I'm really just depressed that we don't see many more apologists calling in these days to these shows. I think we're really just seeing that rinse and repeat cycle. So I'm almost just giving a shout out to apologists right now. Please call in. Please give us something new. Please give us something to talk about, something direct to address.
Yeah. When your book is 2,000 years old, you know, there's only so much material that's left to cover. And I noticed the trend with apologetics that I've seen, Jimmy, is if it's not culture war stuff, which is what a lot of it talks about, it's usually stuff related to new discoveries in the sciences and stuff, right? And just applying that to something is said in the Bible or something that reveals the grand mystery of God or something about intelligent design there. You know, that's a lot of the stuff I see. But like it doesn't feel like it's changed. I mean, I've only been doing this stuff for a few years, but even now I feel kind of old to a lot of the arguments and stuff I see. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah, well, so I liked the concept of something new, except for that the something new is usually some kind of like word problem where they're like, oh, wait, but we all agree that X equals Y.
Yeah.
And therefore, if we go, and I'm sitting here going like, to what would you in any other aspect of your life hold to this standard of like, all right, I know you all said you don't believe in God, but I got a Mother Goose thing going. And if you want to chat now, that doesn't mean I won't indulge it, but I'm literally just sitting there like, you're basically going like, all right, let's start off with the standard by which you have accepted major things like the theory of evolution and gravity and physics and all this stuff. Let's just throw that out the door. And then let's hit up the deep depths of poetry, philosophical poetry and riddles. And
the metaphysics kind of stuff, right? Where they're like, oh, you have to believe in the ultimate being because time is proven to be finite, and if time is finite, there has to be something infinite, and that kind of word game kind of stuff, right? Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
I think you're hitting, both you and Jimmy are hitting upon it perfectly. Actually, my point better than I could make is that they're almost arguing weak deism these days. They're arguing for an ultimate being, like, how do you know something? You know, you have to have presuppositions. And no one's really arguing for Christianity more. They're arguing for the Kalam, you know, and the Kalam, which if I can give shout outs to another atheist YouTuber, is that all right on your channel?
I mean, you can reference whoever you want. I don't know if I shout out, but yeah.
Depending on who it is, I might totally shit on you.
Reference to Amy Newman last night, who was kind of going over the Kalam and her discussion of it. But it's a rather simple, you know, if you know the Kalam, the universe whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. The universe had a cause. And there's, you know, the two premises have a lot to go into. It's obviously a valid form, but this does not get us to a Christian God till you start layering in, oh, well, this thing has to be timeless. It has to be a being that cares about us. Obviously, we were created in its image, so it has the same genitalia as us. I don't know. What's going on here? It's weird. It's very weird very quickly. Once you leave the syllogism. But I think all these apologists are not arguing for Christianity. They're arguing for weak deism.
Yes.
And even then, they're not making good cases for it.
And the reason why is, and I'll let Jimmy talk about this too, in my opinion, is because, look, Jesus didn't talk to people using the Kalam. Okay, he didn't use like these grand philosophical arguments. Okay, the story, as it's told, is he was using miracles, right? Like he was actually proving that, hey, there was something else besides what we're seeing around here. And nobody can actually do that. So if you can't actually use miracles to promote your point, you have to go down this kind of logical argument rabbit hole. I mean, that's the only way to do it. The other way, of course, is to point to the sciences and to point to historical evidences about prophecies and stuff, you know, alleged historical evidence about prophecies and stuff, and claim that, oh, this is a demonstration of what we're talking about. But if you can't do that either, it's just kind of philosophical whatever, you know, that's really all they got.
We never heard the follow-up of those miracles either, because it's like Jesus cured this blind man's blindness by putting mud in his eyes in a bath area. But the follow-up is that the guy immediately went blind again from a severe conjunctivitis infection, because mud in a bath area, y'all, he put poo in that guy's eyes. Anyway, I assume that's what happened next.
Jimmy, if someone spit in your eyes and said they cured you, might you just agree with them and run away as quickly as possible?
Yeah, maybe. I might do that. I might do that. If I saw that happen in real life, my immediate suspicion would be like, all right, let's figure out how these two people already knew each other, and with little worry that that's not going to turn out to be true.
Well, you know, you make such a good point right there. The skepticism we should have for these stories, that maybe these things actually occurred in the Bible, like someone transcribed these events, a lot of copying between the Gospels, but maybe this actually occurred. People watch this, but we see psychic shows these days where there's a lot of cold/hot rating. So someone could write stories of these psychic shows where this person knew these things about this person, but not really anything interesting. But it could have just been plants. Like nothing it was, but skepticism should come into play.
And Christians, you know, according to the Bible, are supposed to be able to perform different acts. Like if you look at the Acts of the Apostle, you know, one of the stories that they tell is they were able to tell somebody was lying through use of the Holy Spirit, that they were withholding some of their money that they wanted to give to the rest of their community and stuff. Like that's an example of these kind of powers you're supposed to be able to have. And like there's stories in the Bible of Christians being able to do stuff. And for some reason, no Christian in the United States, at least that I've encountered, has been able to do anything for that for me. And anywhere else either, as far as I know, besides like really sketchy YouTube videos of highly edited content or just like weird parlor tricks and stuff. It's sad. It's really sad.
I am willing to
one last
I am willing to speak to a deist. If deists want to call in, I'd love, like the caller kind of talked about the weak deism, and it's like that's even an understatement. It is, the Kalam gets you to the weakest, and a lot of these arguments, it's literally like a lot of people when they think about deism or are deists, they still think of a being with like some level of purpose. Like, yeah, it's a person who doesn't care about us, but is still a person capable of caring about something, some sort of being that's off, like creating worlds and stuff. Whereas in reality, like even then you've made so many jumps. Like it can literally just be an ethereal blob monster, and our universe was one of its farts it couldn't hold in. Like that's what it could be as far as this level of deism goes.
Mm-hmm.
So it is like the weakest form of deism even too. And for me, it's literally just like deism is just either one of those word problems actually really got you and you're like, yeah, I'm fumbled because of these premises that I accepted, even though I may not be qualified to comment on the matter at all or actually understand them. Maybe that's what got you, but to me, a lot of deism is just incredulity. Just like, I just can't imagine how it would be without. So
yeah, I agree. It is usually an argument from incredulity, which is, obviously flawed. But Adam, you said you had one more point you want to make, and then we're going to go ahead and go to another caller.
Well, yes, and thank you so much for your time. And anytime you want to debate if agnostics are atheists or not, I'm always up for that challenge. Thank you both for taking my call. Maybe the third or fourth time I've talked to both of you, and have a great show.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. You have a good one. Yeah, like I feel like I've seen it all. I know I haven't, right? There's always going to be more arguments and more kind of tricks to this stuff out there. But I do feel there's a tiredness in my soul, Jimmy, when we go to these apologetics. And it's just like, it's just the same kind of thing, just a different flavor usually, But anyway, we got some other calls who want to talk to us. I want to talk to David, who's calling in from South Carolina. So David, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Recently had a Facebook discussion with a really old, really dear friend of mine about a actual Talk Heathen episode, clip that I shared along, and it wasn't a clip that was directly trying to say, hey, God is dead, or anything along that line. It was more of a point about how atheists act, how and why we take some of the positions we do that. Particularly was the one about why atheists sometimes engage in mockery.
Yeah.
But as part of that, got accused of proselytizing, as much as a street preacher would, and that wasn't my intent. But I see I can see why he thinks that, but I'm at a loss for words about how to communicate why I think that atheist activism is important, but still how to distinguish that from proselytization.
Yeah. The short answer is, if there wasn't religion, then there wouldn't be any atheist activism. Because what would be the point, right? If everybody felt the same way about things. But people have different ideas and different beliefs, and engaging with those ideas, I don't think is necessarily proselytization. Now, I guess it does depend on what kind of atheist you are and how you feel about your atheism and maybe how you go about it. But the truth is, for the majority of history, there hasn't really been, at least, like in the United States, for example, like there hasn't been another atheist community of Austin. There's been a couple of organizations here and there, and there still are today. But groups like this one are the vast, vast minority in a country just full of churches on every single street corner. So, to say that we're the ones engaging in proselytization, when, especially coming from someone who believes in a religion and who's part of a religion that has been part of the colonial powers in the world that has spread the religion to like every ends of the earth, and to be accused of that, it's just ironic, first of all, but also like if your ideas are true, or rather if you believe in true things, then you shouldn't be scared about what other people say. What other people bringing their ideas out, it shouldn't matter. And I feel like it's just an excuse to kind of just break people down and be like, oh, I know you are, but what am I? Kind of, response to that. It doesn't really hold any merit. And again, it does matter what you do with this kind of thing. Like if, I may not vibe with you if you're at a funeral and for somebody's grandmother and you're saying, well, she's not really in heaven, right? Like, okay, like maybe there's limits there. But if we're talking about like the systemic oppression of,
I try to edge away from that kind of thing.
You're right. But if we're talking about the systemic oppression of gay and trans people in the United States, for example, or in other countries, and because of religious activism being a part of that, then we should have a conversation about that. You don't just get to do whatever you want there. But anyway, Jimmy, what are your thoughts?
So as far as what's happening to you is just a cheapening of terms. It's what people do. They like to do it with the word faith too. And what's funny is that there's an admission when they say it that those terms are negative terms. So
right, yeah.
It's very interesting the way they're like, you have faith too. When if you actually look at what faith means in that regard, no, we absolutely don't. But they're saying it as though that's a gotcha because they're acknowledging the negativity of faith. Proselytization, by definition, is trying to convert a person from one religion to another. Atheism isn't a religion, thereby it can't be proselytization. That said, that could also mean in reverse, you can't proselytize to an atheist because you're not converting them from. So obviously there is some nuance to this term because I'm sure we've all felt very proselytized to. And so it's just a matter of, okay, define your words then. And anytime you get that thing where they try and like hold you down to a word, make them provide a definition and then go, okay, well then by your definition of proselytization, which isn't the definition, sure, but by the actual definition, no, I'm not. So that's my 2-part response to that challenge.
I see us talking about this stuff.
That is
go ahead.
I think that is a little bit helpful. Part of where he was coming from, not being a very religious person himself, was if you don't believe in a God or anything like that, why do you care what anyone else believes? And part of why I maybe once a month or so share things like this along is to make to just aid in visibility and to help make sure that any of my extended friends group who may be questioning or may actually be undercover atheists know that there's someone out there that they have a connection to that they could actually speak to. And I don't see that as proselytization, but it still hurts because this is someone who I've known since high school. And
so I would stop answering so many questions and ask more. And the one I would ask there is, even if you just jump with all right, let's say that I'm going to agree with your terms that I am doing something similar. Why should atheists not advocate for their own interests, their own positions, when religion, it's just universally accepted, and when you are certain religions, expected that you will do that? That's probably what I would do.
Yep. Yeah. If you are like a Muslim, for example, you ask him hey, if you tell me as a Muslim, wouldn't it make sense for me to advocate for the Muslim position if I think the tenets of Islam are correct? Wouldn't you do the same thing if that was your beliefs? And as atheists, we do have, they're not directly related to atheism per se, but a lot of us have beliefs about humanism, have beliefs about what a society should look like. Just because you don't have a religion doesn't mean you don't have an opinion about things. So it's not really fair to just say, oh, you can't talk about it because you don't view things the same way. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I would point that out too.
And before someone whines in the comments, because I realized that I didn't offer enough nuance for what I just said, I don't generally mean stop answering questions, but specifically questions that are only built to put you on the defensive.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that they're useless because you're not actually engaging in a debate or a conversation. You're engaging in a game,
right?
Where they're just let me see how much I can keep this person on the hot seat and get their blood pressure up.
It stops being a conversation. It becomes an interrogation session, right? They're just going to keep asking you questions until they can finally wear you down and try to make a point against you. So sometimes those conversations happen and they're not super healthy. So if that's what's going on, I suggest you kind of reevaluate it and see if you can like Jimmy said, get around that. See if you can ask them some questions, and hopefully not do the same thing.
There's this wild imbalance too, where right now, if somebody tells me that they're a theist, a space theist, my first question is going to be, what kind of theist are you? For some reason, we don't do that with atheists. There are no tenets of atheism except for that we don't believe in God. The fact that people are you just said atheist, I got my whole world ahead of me, here's my list of script, and then you're going to find out that there are atheists that believe in Nazi magic.
It's true. Yeah, it's totally true. I thought my definition of atheist was someone who believed in science, I think, was the thing I used, which is such a vague nondescript, meaningless definition. And obviously, like, there's a lot of atheists that don't follow like current science. So, it can vary just as much as Christianity can vary too. But I think that's all the time we got for this call here, David, unless you had another quick point you wanted to make.
No, I think that's fine. Thank you very much. That actually was helpful.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Glad we could help out, David. Hope your conversations go well, and keep on keeping on, man. I know it sucks being on the end of that interrogation. Like I sometimes it's like not even that I'm trying to quote unquote proselytize or bring my point of view. Sometimes I'm just living my life, and people kind of just question what I'm doing and why I have to be the way that I am. So it can be frustrating. For sure. So we got some other callers here. Man, a lot of different stuff here.
I say we try Moldred.
Want to try Moldred? Okay.
First we ask if that's how to pronounce their name.
Yeah, let's ask that. Moldred, I think is what it is. If calling from New York, you're live on Talk Heathen. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Moldred, yeah. M-O-L-D-R-E-D, Moldred, yeah. Frank Zappa came up with that name, and I adopted it.
Cool.
That's what he was going to call his next kid. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Mr. Snow or Jimmy or whatever, did you see the video that I sent you about from the quantum gravity research people about reality?
I don't know. What's the time frame on this? Was this in the last week?
Yeah, it was in the last week.
Then no, I haven't seen anything like that in the last week. It doesn't mean you didn't send it. I just haven't seen it.
I'll send it again. Yeah, I'll send it again. Then that would be that would be too complicated to try and explain. So I'll just we'll just talk about biocentrism, which is basically the concept that the universe, reality or the universe is maintained in the collective awareness of the life forms throughout the universe.
All right. Well, Moldred, I want to start with this. I want to start with this about the quantum thing you already said, though. It's possible I'll watch it. If it's hours, I'm definitely not going to. But in my experience, and I think you will possibly find the same experience, the moment people start advocating for quantum concepts within a spiritual kind of framework, there's a 7,000% chance they have no idea what quantum concepts are.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that you're aware that I'm going to go into that, having had these conversations a million times, and I have very little understanding of quantum physics, and yet I have enough to be able to identify these people who have even less understanding than I do. So I want you to know that I'm already maybe going in, maybe it's cynicism that I'm saying I am going in at, but I would like to suggest to you, whenever you hear these concepts, because they're not even widely understood scientific concepts yet,
right?
You should know that people are mostly hypothesizing and that there's probably a lot of LSD involved, which is totally cool with me.
For Truth Wanted, I've been wanting to get a breaking case of quantum conversations box just right behind me that I can break anytime these conversations come up, because I feel the same way, Jimmy. It's like, not only am I not qualified, but also there's a good likelihood that the person talking to me isn't either, so it's kind of a non-starter. But let's go. We'll talk about the biocentrism, Moldred.
Okay, just one quick thing. Check out their website. It's quantum gravity research. They're sort of like physicists more than religious nuts or anything like that. And
I'll be honest, I'd rather talk to physicists and not people who are sort of like physicists about it. But we really want to get to the call that you talked to the call screener about. So let's talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about that. All right. So, my late friend Robert Anton Wilson said, reality is what you can get away with.
Okay. Where is this going? Can we talk about something here? I thought this was about biocentrism.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about biocentrism. All right. How much of the way people perceive the universe is by their life experience, and how far does that go in maintaining reality? That's what biocentrism is about.
All right. So to the point of the individual, our entire reality is based on our perception. The best we can do with the tools we have is to speak with and share experiences with those people who appear to also exist in our reality, because unfortunately we can never prove to ourselves that anyone beyond ourselves exists, and see what commonalities we can come up with. And what's been beautiful about that is, while that might be true of the way we experience reality is according entirely to our perception, as we do commune with other people and get this information from other people, anybody who thinks like, because you can't prove it, now it's okay to suspect it, that's almost very flattering that people think I could come up with then in my own brain these advanced concepts of physics and biology and all the sciences, chemistry, everything, that all that came from my brain. I'm very, very flattered. However, I know my own stupid self, and I'm not buying it. So as far as the best we can do goes, we talk to those with whom we share apparently a reality, and we do our best outside of our own, it would be like super cool, man, sort of concepts to figure out what is true outside of our existence.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I think, Jim, you hit the nail on the head, So that's all I got.
Yeah.
Well, individually, we're not maintaining the universe. What biocentrism says is that collectively we do it. You don't. One person doesn't know everything or maintain everything in the universe, but collectively, everyone does.
I mean, that's a fun idea, but how do you demonstrate that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. The universe, was it Thunderfoot's basal assumptions? The universe exists. We can learn something about what we perceive to be reality, and ideas that have predictive can predict things are more useful than those that can't.
None of those three things have anything to do with a collectively conscious.
The third one wrong, yeah.
None of those have to do with the universe being a collective consciousness, right?
No. How do you know that?
Well, what is the link there? What does that have to do with the universe being a collective consciousness? Because I don't see a link. Do you see a link there, Jimmy?
I genuinely am like, what?
Yeah.
First of all, we talked about bringing up atheists that I might shit on you for bringing up. But I'll skip that part. The concept. I mean, to me, it's literally like, this is one of those ones where you can just move the goalposts so easily too, where you're like, well, the concepts of the universe are only maintained by those capable of conceiving concepts, and so. Yeah. Collectively, all of the information that we have, there's some truth and but like, as far as just a data source goes, if you plugged in all those brains, you could find out a lot of stuff, not all of it useful, like what happened on season 6 of 90 Day Fiance, which I can provide to people if they want, but it doesn't matter. To me, this just sounds like a combination of like, if I go down to the minimum of like, everybody was everywhere, man, you can come up with some justification, but I haven't actually heard anything that's demonstrable or should lead me to suspect that the universe, I don't know if you're saying is a product or is just tracked by all of our minds together.
The language there is still a bit iffy too, but if this isn't really an idea that we can fungibly work with. I don't know how useful it is, and I don't know if it actually tells me anything new about the world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Moldred, yeah, you got one more shot here, but other than that, I think we need to get to another caller.
Well, just give me something to work with.
Yeah.
Okay. How about well, the part of the demonstration be the double slit experiment. You acquainted with that?
No.
Okay. If the double slit experiment is a experiment by physicists.
Okay, wait. Actually, I actually don't. I could. The call cut out for a second. I couldn't hear it, but I didn't realize you said the double slit experiment. I don't want to go down the double slit experiment route because that's quantum physics stuff, and we already said like quantum physics is one really not our bag, but also like it's not really going to get us anywhere today, man. I'm sorry. But,
yeah, this is my thing with all of these, and I don't mean to be condescending but it's going to sound that way, so I'm just going to let it go. These ridiculous ideas where people go like, okay, you know where the proof of my sort of theistic belief is? A branch of science that no one really understands yet and that everybody is capable of appealing to and sounds super wicked smart when they do it. It's literally just like, yo, guys, what I believe is that bananas, it's really the perfect object. It's like a soda can. It fits perfectly in the hand. Oh, but here's the problem with that. Right. But let me throw in quantum physics.
Right.
Oh, well, that really stupid thing you were just saying. Now I can't say anything because I've brought out a branch of science that you can only refute with the same branch of science, but you really can't because that doesn't exist yet. For example, parts of the original theory of evolution by Darwin could only be really refuted by the biological science of genetics, which wasn't invented until later. So in the meantime, you could have people going around quoting biology and evolution and talking about gene blending instead of how we actually understand it to work. And people just go, oh, well, you quoted a science and I lack the ability to debunk that. This is you gotta go with, at the very least, anybody who makes an appeal to quantum physics for a theistic view has to admit that if that is what it takes to believe in your theistic view, there have been zero people up until about 10 years ago with a good reason to believe in your God. And that should give you some pause.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is with the double slit experiment, even there is debate amongst physicists about what is the quote unquote correct interpretation of what we should get from that kind of experiment. So if even the people who are more expert than me, who've been studying this stuff for years, still have a lot of questions and still have a lot of things that they don't particularly know about the exact results of this thing, I'm not going to cite it to use as a plant into my worldview. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be a base point because one, I don't know enough about it yet, and the people studying this thing clearly don't know enough about it yet. So it's a moot point either way. And I just get I don't know. The quantum stuff is just it's always a mess talking about that. So I want to go ahead and go to another caller here. Yes, thank you, Moldred, for talking with us though. I want to talk to Alfred from Florida, if that's all right with you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Alfred, you are live with us on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
Hey, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm on here.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just want to say right quick that you guys are a lot nicer than the other ones that they weren't very nice to me.
Well, you haven't talked to us yet.
Alfred, I assure you that whatever evidence you have for that statement is very limited because no one has ever described me as such.
Oh, you're nice.
We'll see.
Okay, so anyways, I have a claim that I made. I got my notes written down. But I have I have two claims, but I'm going to read you one claim. I'm just going to factor it down to one claim, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Okay.
No, but just do it.
Yeah, I like that you have it written down. That's actually a good thing. Take note, people who call into the show. If you write your stuff out before you come talk to us, it really does help. So
but I'm also like, we would fight about that too, because all that does is go like, that just gets the Otangelos of the world that are like, I have my script and I'm not really going to listen to what you say.
I more mean, that's true too. I don't want to get into that kind of territory. I just more mean if you're feeling nervous or you don't want to like overextend yourself while talking, it's good to write out what you want to say. So
bring the spark notes.
Right. Anyway, go ahead, Alfred.
Okay. So, as a spiritualist, I and many other spiritualists believe and accept the idea, based on the very close observation of the human reality, that this thing exists and governs and maintains the human world and human beings. This thing can be factored down into two things: love and infinite intelligence. However, we factor these two things down further into just one thing, which is love. An old thing, such as nature, materialistic things, human beings, animals, all gods of all religion, and the universe come from love. We also factor love down even further into what is called good affection, or showing good affection to all things and people, and a good feeling or a feeling of being loved by people and things. Like part of the Christian scripture, we see this thing or love, for as spiritualists, human beings, nature, animals, etc., to be a reflection or image of love, which means this thing can take form of many forms, especially human being form, by creating a human creation. This thing can be in the form of
I'm going to go ahead and go ahead, Jimmy, you go first.
Alfred, let me just ask a couple of questions. First of all, in just a couple of words, how much longer was what you were going to read?
Hello?
Yeah, Can you hear me, Alfred?
Yes.
Yeah, how much longer was this statement?
It's not that long. Can I just finish reading that?
No. So can I just ask you if this is the summary that after a lot of sitting and thinking, the concept you've come up with is that God and all things are love?
No, that's not what I meant. Like, okay, for example, I can give you an example. So as a spiritualist, we believe that, we actually stick to reality. So I think what you guys are doing, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are looking for you guys are looking for evidence from other people's religions as far as what their God, like whether their God is real or not. But as a spiritualist, we look for wait, hold on, I'm nervous.
It's okay.
As a spiritualist, we look for a God of we look for a God of our reality, like the earth, like our reality, like
right. Okay, that's fine. I don't need any more. So what you've described is a God of confirmation bias. You go, I'm not a materialist. I'm not a literalist. I'm not going to just sit there and go, you are starting with a conclusion and saying, I'm looking for this God. And now everything that fits in. By the way, your whole thing was God is love, but whatever. We're not going to argue about what your statement meant, even though I am capable of basic comprehension. Yours is a God of confirmation bias. And the good news is, Alfred, I'm not mad at you for that, because so is every other God. So is every other God that people want to believe in. But now you're leaning into what is a fallacious way of thinking. You're going like, hey guys, what if we just say confirmation bias in different words is great? So here's the difference between you and I, Alfred. You give me the facts and I'm still going to draw conclusions. That's definitely what's going to happen. And at times I'm going to get those conclusions wrong. It happens all the time, in fact, but I'm going to do my best. And because I know I get those conclusions wrong, new information is things I will consider, and I will try to update my conclusions to the best I can. But when you say I'm starting with looking for this God, that is starting with your conclusion, and then you're going to tailor the facts to it. And then when you say of my own reality, it's a concept I reject. And in fact, the audio was a little bit warped on it, but if you go to my channel, I suggest you look at the conversation that I had with Matt Dillahunty, who, if you aren't familiar with this channel, with who Matt Dillahunty is, I don't know what you're doing here. But anyway, we had this conversation about the arguments that annoy us the most. And one of them is this concept of my truth. If you're here to only advocate for your truth, then you're useless to me. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I literally mean if you can only advocate for your reality and not a concept of it would appear we all share a reality, and that's the truth you advocate for, then the only person you need to be sharing these thoughts with are yourself, because that's the only person they could possibly appeal to. And I'm sorry for the coldness of that, but that's just how it is. The
only thing I would add to this is what I'm hearing here is a type of hermeneutics, which is this practice of trying to blend religious and philosophical literature and just, wisdom texts in general, and just trying to put them into all one umbrella to try to get a grand theory of the world. Because, we see that there's other religious ideas out there, there's other practices, and there's other faiths, and we think, well, maybe there's some sort of universal truth at the end of it. But exactly to Jimmy's point, you're making an assumption there at the beginning, which is that there is something to the end of this, that all of this is somehow connected, when really that's just a bias that's implicit in the first place. It's not being scientific to take all these ideas and think, hey, there must be some sort of truth to it. We have to start with exactly what we know to be true first, or at least what we can reasonably demonstrate, and then go from there. But even to say that everything is love, that gets problematic too, because if we're all beings of love and that's like our greatest existence, then we obviously see so much awful destruction and terribleness. And I could easily argue that we are beings of destruction just as much as we're beings of love. I think I could find just as many examples of that. So, it comes down to just redefining words, and also just like Jimmy was saying, it's a selection bias there of the kind of data that you're putting in to this kind of what appears to be a universal worldview, but is actually a very selective one. But I think that's all the time I want to spend on this particular call. We got a lot of other people.
Give Alfred a challenge, because I think Alfred, there's
I actually just dropped it.
All right. Well, Alfred, hopefully you listen back to this after, because I do think you should call in and the conversation should continue. But what I want to explain to you is what you just did and what you should do next time instead. You called us and said, I have a lot of great reasons to believe this that can only appeal to me. But that's not what the show or shows like this are about. You need to call why I should believe what you believe, why Dan should. And if you only want to talk about why you believe that, I'm fine with having that conversation too in a different context, as long as you're open to the scrutiny of, I'm now going to give you all the reasons why you shouldn't. But here, I think the tagline of this show or this organization is, tell me why you believe what you believe, and why. Well, maybe not the why I should too, but that's the conversation I want to have. And if right off the bat, if the information is I can only prove this to myself, then there's no use to this conversation. Anyway.
Yeah. We have another caller here, CJ, calling in. Is that Mississippi or Minnesota? I always get the MI confused.
MI is Michigan.
It's Michigan. Oh, dang. I was double wrong. Okay. Well, CJ, I think, wants to talk to us next. CJ, you're live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Yeah, I want you guys to prove your religious text.
Okay, cool. No, I'm going to do it, Dan.
Okay, go for it.
Damn, I thought I had a fart. I have no religious text to defend. I love this too. I love this because I just talked about how people are going to bastardize words and they're going to ask questions to immediately put you on the defensive. So go ahead, CJ. Which religious text of mine would you like me to defend?
Can you hear me?
Oh,
yes.
I do.
Okay. I want you to prove your science textbook.
Which textbook?
No, wait. Let's acknowledge, if you would like me to advocate for scientific ideas that I believe, that is not the same as defending a religious text. Are you going to acknowledge that first?
Okay, sure, whatever.
Okay, so to be clear, you are saying that yes, just drop the guy. Fuck this guy. I'm gonna drop him. You're not a serious person. Like seriously, that's not a serious okay, so you're agreeing this is okay, yeah, sure, whatever. That's not an actual agreement. You're not actually trying to pursue a conversation. For the record, I dropped him. Dan may not have. He's nicer than me. Like, listen. I'm sorry, but and I don't mean it in a mean way. People who know me in the real world know that even if I tell a person to go fuck themselves, that doesn't mean I hate you or anything. I just am done with you for the moment. What a stupid way to defend your religious textbooks. Okay, yeah. I don't have a fart. How would you like me to? Okay, then just defend your science books. Okay, but that's not a religious textbook.
Well, I want to know whatever. I was just caught up on which McGraw-Hill Publishing, which textbooks are we talking about here? Are all science textbooks bad or just a couple of them? I wish we got to that part of it. But
had I pursued it, I was going to ask him what science means and to describe the scientific method and then listen for the clicks of him Googling.
Yeah. The point of those kinds of calls are to try to make exactly what we were talking about earlier in the show, Jimmy. It's to make this point to say, hey, you guys are religious too, because you have this faith aspect to your belief system. Yeah. Which I think we both acknowledge, there's limitations to our beliefs. They're not perfect. But we can at least demonstrate them in some ways. There's we can at least do stuff with them. They're not just coming out of nowhere either. We can at least point to things in the world and other people can point to them too. Despite the philosophical limitations to that. But at the end of the day, we're not just making stuff up. It's coming from somewhere, right? Yeah. Even if it's wrong, it's at least coming from somewhere. So
science is a method and it's a pretty damn good one. And even once you have finished, you haven't finished. There's always literally once you have used science to get as good of a theory defined as you can, you're still not done, because the next step is eternal scrutiny and eternity of trying to, not a literal eternity. I know about entropy. Don't at me in the comments. But an eternity of trying to disprove that.
Yeah.
And the idea that someone's yeah, well, that's just same as on par as my religious beliefs.
Right.
They're your religious beliefs are now, if you close your eyes and you say out loud or you think something really hard and then you get a little bit of a tingle somewhere, that means something. We won't actually say it means yes, because it might mean no, but it'll depend on what the outcome is. And then whatever it is, that's what God was telling you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, unreliable and just not really something we can work with, right? But,
so impressed.
I've been picking some calls here. I think you should pick our next call here, Jimmy.
That's fine. That's fine. I just, with CJ, that last caller, I just can imagine all of the arguments he wins in the shower against nobody. Which I do that too.
Yeah. I think we all done that once or twice, right? I mean,
once or twice a shower.
Jimmy's every day, but rest of us once or twice. Maybe.
I'm winning arguments in the car against no one in the shower. Let's do Christopher in Arizona.
Okay.
Christopher.
Sorry, is that me, Christopher?
That's you.
Yes, that's you. What's up?
How's it going, guys?
Going good. Just chilling.
I'm cool. I'm a scientist, and I studied. I was actually atheist for an extremely long time, until I started getting more into philosophy. And basically, I ran into this problem in attempting to ground rationality or reason somewhere outside, for instance, in evolutionary biology, biochemistry, and obviously, eventually, physics and cosmology. And so I guess the fundamental problem that I ran into is, what justification do you guys have to believe in your own beliefs? If we are merely the products of a random event, cosmologically, random genetic mutation, yes, there are non-random selective processes there as well, but the evidence kind of suggests that the way that our brains work is not to represent or estimate or believe in any type of objective representation of the way that the world actually is, but most likely just in the most adaptive way possible instead. There's a cognitive neuroscientist at UC Irvine, Donald Hoffman.
Well, hey,
who makes
Christopher,
the case.
I do want to posit to you that you've asked a question about 2 paragraphs ago.
I can leave it at that.
Yeah.
I can leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Dan, you want to
Well,
go? I just want to always make sure when the question comes, if we then throw more and more on. Go
this
ahead.
kind of question is something that I think you and I, JV, probably get asked pretty frequently about, like, how do we ground our own reasoning in things? And I think we've answered it like 100 different ways, or at least 100 different times. But like, I hate to answer your question with a question, but I don't know how religion solves that issue. Right. I think we recognize that, there's issues in the way that we can form our epistemologies. Right. But like, religion doesn't solve any of that. If anything, it adds an extra layer to what we do and don't know. Like, the way I approach the world, right, is I take some observations, I see if they match with other observations, and I see if I can make predictions based off those observations. Okay. I'm not making any definitive truth claims about the world, but I am saying I can predict that certain things can happen. That's like the basics of what I would call my worldview. Okay. I don't need any religious grounding for that to make any predictions. It turns out I just need to make those observations and I can make predictions based off them. Okay. And that's really it. That's that's the simplest way I can put that. To add a God belief, or to add that I need some sort of construct outside of myself to really make true, quote unquote, sense of the world, it's just extra. It doesn't really add anything new to my life. And it doesn't tell me anything new that I couldn't figure out through the methods I already have. And that's methodological naturalism right there. That's what I use to kind of figure out the world, but only because I haven't found anything else that can tell me anything better. I mean, have you, Jimmy?
Yeah. Well, and so the thing with adding the God to this problem is you haven't actually added a layer of like, oh, now we actually can trust we're not just brains in jars, or that we're not being finagled. But now I can find a collective of people, and my confidence can be boosted not from evidence, but the knowledge that a lot of other people believe this. It's not actually useful to that end. Kind of like it's really just the same thing as these people who are like, oh, I started believing because I realized, the watch in the sand or whatever, everything that is created or everything that exists must have a creator. And then you go with the like, oh, cool. So who created God? And they're like, well, God doesn't need to have a creator. And then you ask them to justify it, and they basically never can, or they come up with another ridiculous word problem. And the thing that I
understand all of that, but what I guess I'm more getting at is that you very likely hold materialist views of cosmology and evolution, which seem to directly undermine your own ability to believe in your own rational beliefs. So I'm just wondering how you
go
can
ahead and present me. Give me one of my beliefs. Give me one of the things I believe about evolution that would interfere with my belief in, or whatever example of of what you're describing.
I'd be curious to know too.
Well. Okay. Can I ask one more follow up? Are you guys determinists, or do you believe in free will?
Well, wait. Why does that matter? Because you said our beliefs.
Yeah,
so...
and even here. Well, I'll answer the question.
Okay.
I have an answer of what I suspect to be the case based on my observation of other science. However, I'm not going to claim it as a fact or as knowledge, and I definitely don't go and debate that a deterministic universe must be what universe we have. However, it seems to me likely that if you were to replicate the Big Bang in another place, which is, I understand, since space doesn't, I understand the concept of another place doesn't make any sense. But if you were to replicate the Big Bang exactly as it happened and then move forward the same amount of time, we're having this same pedantic conversation again. But anyway, go. Yeah. So what is? But what's an example of instead of going in determinism, why not go with biology?
Okay, sure. Yeah, we can go with biology. So there's a ton of evidence that suggests that basically that all of our cognitive processes, all of our mental representations, all of our beliefs, all of our perceptions, all of our social discourse or whatever are basically not representing the way that the world actually is, but they're just the most adaptive way, or they're competing with other adaptive ways of of existing. And
Christopher, what is
the
a biological belief I have? Because this is what you said. What is a belief about biology that I have that contradicts my worldview? That's what you said is the thing you could. I don't need any of these other things.
It would be that your brain isn't it did not evolve to hold true beliefs, but actually intentionally misrepresents the world in an adaptive way, which kind of undermines your reason for believing in any type of truth.
This reasoning, this is Alvin Plantinga's point, right? The Christian apologist Alvin Plantinga, who talks about, how the problem with evolution being that we may not necessarily be evolved to understand the world as true, but rather what's like evolutionarily advantageous for us, right? So that's kind of this criticism that he makes. So the response really is, that's a suggestion. And I don't there's just no real way to demonstrate that, right? Because we're stuck with the things that we have regardless.
Right.
And it's more of a philosophical quandary rather than, anything substantial that we can really look at. And even if that's true, again, there's just no way to really demonstrate to be false or not. So that doesn't necessarily mean
there is. I mean, you can look across different species and see the way that they represent the world and see that
that's methodological naturalism, though. That's using our reasoning.
Yeah.
So
also,
we're stuck either way.
I love this appeal to essentially like a Star Trek. Hang on, Christopher. Hang on. I love this philosophical objection because it reminds me so much of Spock tricking the computer, where it seems to me that even rationalizing that concept means you have to make an exception for yourself. And you're just going with the, I never lie, but I'm lying when I say that. Oh, cannot compute. This is just so confusing. And you're literally saying we're incapable of actually conceiving truth. We can only conceive adaptive truth.
That would only be the case if I held your beliefs about biology and cosmology that lack any telos. Okay. So I don't have that contradiction because I think that
because of your presuppositionalist garbage is what it is. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that oh my God, yes, it is.
Whatsoever.
Yes, it is. It is 100% precept because you are beginning with an assertion as you're grounding the accepting of that assertion. You have not justified it. It is full on. And this is why I think I can guess, Christopher, that not only have you as a scientist looked into it, that you didn't just come away with now going like, so then I couldn't rationalize it, so now I'm a deist. Answer honestly, Christopher, are you a deist or do you accept an Abrahamic God?
It's not a presupposition. It's a fundamental axiom that I have found that we all assume. Like
it's a precept.
It's something that you can't not.
Are you
assume.
A Christian?
Yeah, but it's
Christopher.
Not in any sense that most 99% of Christians in America would agree with.
Right. You do realize you just said yes, though, right? You can just do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Why should we believe in Christianity? Because honestly, I'm tired of the precept thing, and it absolutely is that. You disagree.
You acknowledge that you have other presuppositions.
Christopher, why should we believe in Christianity?
In order to even conduct science, you must have presuppositions about the world.
Do we not really hang up on people on Talk Heathen? Because I feel like this is like the 5th time that I've asked a question he won't answer. And I just, as soon as it was like, are you a Christian?
We could go ahead and let this call go.
No, I
but I'm
tired of it. It's literally just like, you aren't trying to engage in the conversation. You're trying to justify your precept, and you can't, because you're literally going, guys, what if I just start with the assertion? And it's not even, there are ones where I'm comfortable with people going like, let me just start with the presupposition that I exist. All right, I can give you that one. Sure. I get why we can't go, a layer behind that one. But this, oh my God. Anyway,
to add to your point, and I'll make it brief. We all have to work with some sort of axioms. I think Christopher actually made a good point, which is like, yes, even science does accept certain principles in order to kind of make statements about the world. I don't think that's controversial. What would be controversial is which ones we do accept and which ones are necessary for us to accept other things to be true. Yeah. And I think where a lot of these arguments go is you have to accept this certain point, this, as you point out, a presuppositionalist point, in order for it to be true. I say, no, we actually don't. I don't actually need it. So that's kind of the end of that conversation. But
I'm never impressed with people who were like, I'm a scientist and was an atheist. And as I started accepting presuppositionalism, which means at the very least, you either weren't a skeptic or you dropped it. And this is why I actually knew within the first 2 sentences on our screening thing, the only thing we get told is if a person is theistic or atheistic. Within the first 2 sentences, I knew this was a Christian. And that's why he could hear I knew he was a Christian, and he didn't want to say yes. He went with, not with a way 99, I don't know if he said 0.9%, but basically everyone listen. As long as you presuppose this assertion as true, Christopher is the first person in the existence of the universe to crack the code. And really, I'm looking forward to an invite to his cult, because what else do we do here, honestly?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of other callers here. Jimmy, you want to pick another one here? Because we got
you can do this one.
We got a couple different interesting ones. Let's talk to Kevin calling in from New York. Kevin, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I wanted to bring up the subject of UFOs and aliens.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
That leads me, yes, and how that leads me to believe that there may be existence of non-physical beings. Now, starting off with...
So are we going to talk about the recent report that talked about the UAPs in Congress and stuff? Because those videos definitely show stuff if they're determined to be true videos of real events of stuff that's beyond our current, or at least American understanding of technology and stuff, which is fascinating. But I don't know if that means non-physical beings are in the picture, but we'll see.
Excited. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it brings up the question on whether or not if it's even technology at all. And I want to concentrate more on testimony. And I know that's sort of weak substantially when it comes to evidence, testimony that is. But I want to stress the fact that it's good to look at testimony from people who are commercial pilots, from the military, because it is a fact that when we're looking for how is a person able to, observe the world around them, these pilots are the best that we have. In fact, our lives depend on their observational skills a lot of times.
That's true, but it's also true that human beings make mistakes in every single professional field. Pilots are not excluded from that. So I understand that perhaps we should maybe hold the testimony of someone who's trained in that field maybe higher than maybe you or I, but that doesn't mean that they're not capable of making mistakes, right? Like, that doesn't mean that they aren't capable of believing something that's incorrect.
Yeah.
Yes. Now that can be looked at, but we also have to look at the consistency in a certain respect too, because one of the reports that I want to point out to you is, say, for example, there was an Air Force pilot who reported seeing a UFO make a maneuver such as going from 60,000 feet to 50,000 feet in 0.08 seconds. Now, that's actually consistent with a lot of other reports, and it's important to point out because it breaks laws of physics and it creates G-forces that actually should kill the pilot.
Those speeds. I get that. Under our current understanding of physics. There's some weird stuff in these videos, and I am not going to contest with that. But when the Wright brothers were making their stuff, there were people that said that it was physically impossible for them to do what they were doing too. So that doesn't mean that it's not necessarily possible. It just means that our current understanding can't exactly explain what we're seeing. And the explanations that, hey, could actually just be human beings in other countries doing stuff is still on the table. My first guess isn't going to be, well, this is aliens or this is some non-physical being. I get it. Based on our current understanding of stuff, shit's weird, but that doesn't mean that we can jump to all this other stuff. At least I'm not ready to personally do that yet.
Yeah, Kevin, I want to try and get to the meat of this, and I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, anecdotal evidence isn't data. It can be useful for collecting the experiences of people, but that's not what multiple anecdotes mean. Second, you made this assertion about it breaks the laws of physics and in a way that the pilot would have died. And I assume that's where you go. Therefore, it would need to be an immaterial person. We already know aircraft without pilots exist, and it seems to me you haven't even you've presupposed once again that there is an aircraft, therefore there's a pilot, when we already know there is totally pilotless stuff out there. But what it comes down to is this: you believe that UFOs in some way defend a proposition that there are immaterial beings. What is a UFO, Kevin?
It's an unidentified flying object. But you see,
so how in the world can it defend anything like that? Because we don't know what the hell we were looking at. We don't know, first of all, the validity of any of these things, or there's literally some of these UFOs, not all of them, I know, because last time I brought it up, people were acting like I was saying it, but where they've gone, we haven't actually ruled out that there was a bug inside the sensor of the imaging device, and that's why, since we were only able to see this on radar or whatever else. Also, I am never shocked the level to which Kevin, wait a second. I promise I'll give you back I'll give it back to you in a second. I am never ever shocked by the way people's memories enhance themselves to become a more interesting story, or the way people whole cloth make up stuff to be a more interesting person. Even those people who are experts, and you're talking about a person whose father is in the military, multiple brothers were in the military. I tried to join the military but I couldn't because of health stuff, and have been surrounded by the military my whole life. And while there are admirable things about being in the military, the idea that because you might get some expertise, you're now not just going to lie or just be confident in your own assertions because you have your perceived expertise. We have a little thing called Dunning-Kruger that totally debunks that idea too. So go ahead and tell me how something that is unidentified can justify any proposition in a way that you would accept it as something to believe in.
Well, it's just the thing that I know that just pointing out one or two things as monumental would be faulty in thinking that, oh yes, it's going to be true then, because I know that logically, in terms of these UFOs, these things that we don't understand, there might be a technology that might negate the atmospheric brushback that these things perform, at the speeds that they're going. But
at the speeds they appear to be going,
that still doesn't explain other consistent reports of these aerial crafts going in and out of the ocean without so much of a splash. Because it follows logically that two physical objects coming together, especially when there's speed involved, causes a reaction. And we don't see that when
Kevin, okay, fine.
Navy reports of these UFOs.
Fine, I accept your assertions, not as truth, but that you go, okay, that's the case. How are you going to test it? Because I'm not going to accept it until you do. How are you going to test this assertion? Because you've gone, listen, there's nothing wrong with going, ooh, nothing has explained this concept. I think it might be this. What then is a problem is if you go, I think it might be this, and I'm really impressed with what I came up with, so I'm going to start telling people it's this, and that's wrong. The next step after a hypothesis, which is all you have here, is testing. So how do you mean to test it? And if you don't have a method to test it, do you understand that not only should everybody reject the idea until you have tested it, but you should actually let go of it until you've come up with a method of testing, or spend your whole life coming up with how to test it. I'm fine with that too.
Well, sorry to fail you when it comes to the testing of this all, but people can. I mean, looking at the consistency of it really denotes that, yes, that one person might have been mistaken, but yes, here it is happening again. You know what I mean? But I just really called to talk about what I thought about it, really.
Yeah, and the thing is, man, we want to talk to people about what they believe and why. And it sounds like the beginning of this call, I think you were a little more confident in this, and this is fine. And by the way, honestly, this is probably the outcome we want, but we want you to acknowledge at the very least that you merely have a hypothesis, and that while you feel compelled by a lack of evidence to use it like it is evidence, I'd really love it if you would acknowledge that nobody should also accept that too, and that you doing so is in and of itself still irresponsible.
Well, when we're talking about evidence here, I mean, there's only maybe one or 2 points that I made, and there's many more to be made. And
should anybody besides you believe that UFOs demonstrate the existence of immaterial beings?
Well, it's something interesting. That's all I can say.
Okay, you can say it's interesting, but you could also answer the question: should anybody believe that that is the case?
Sure, because I mean, I told you something that.
No, they shouldn't, because you have not. You even said by your words were, I don't have anything for you as far as a test goes. It was something like that. You have a hypothesis.
Well, yeah, I mean,
people believe hypotheses before there is a good reason to believe them.
There's characteristics, there's measurements that people can take out there. I'm not an expert on aerodynamics.
Trust me, I hadn't mistaken you for one. Dan, you're still muted. I don't mean, sorry, Kevin. I'm also from New York, so I hope you appreciate the sarcasm. Here's what I want to do, Kevin, is say, come back when you have a method of testing and you have evidence, not multiple anecdotes. The plural of anecdote is not data. All right. And hopefully we can get Dan unmuted here.
Yeah, I'm unmuted here. I don't know what was happening there. But what I wanted to point out was on my show on Friday, Kevin, somebody posited to me that the UFOs we were seeing was a result of demonic illusions. Okay. And that explanation has just as much explanatory power as non-physical beings. It has just as much explanatory power as angels. It has just as explanatory power as fairies. Yes, it is a possibility, but the evidence towards one being that over another explanation just isn't there. What we do have is lots of stories in the past of people freaking out and looking at other technologies and seeing them as godlike or of immaterial beings, but actually being the result of a civilization that had more advanced research in that particular field. And this could be, I think this has more merit to being that than to any of those other explanations so far. I agree. We don't have all the answers yet, and there's a lot of stuff we don't know, but it's going to be, it's going to take a little bit more before I can jump to one of those other kinds of otherworldly explanations rather than ones that exist within the natural world that I already know we can look at and have proven to have happened in the past. So that's how I feel about that. Again, sorry about the mic stuff. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, that's how I feel. And honestly, I want to go ahead and get to another caller here as well. We're going a little long on this one, but thanks, Kevin, for talking to us.
We are supposed to return him to the queue, not drop Kevin.
Well, I fucked that up because I just dropped. Yeah, you're right. I saw that note. Sorry, Kevin. If you want to call in again and
talk to the
call screeners, that was totally my bad. That was my finger was on the trigger for that one. But we have a couple of other callers here. I think we have time for maybe one more. Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's do it. Okay, this one might make us mad, but let's see. I do want to talk to David calling in from California. David, you're live on Talk Heathen.
Yeah.
And before we actually get to you, David, I need to do something that I have not been doing. So I'm going to beat you for just a second. We need to give a shout out to the patrons. We're a little late in the show for doing that. I'm sorry. I'm not the regular host of Talk Heathen, guys. I want to be on here a bit more, but I'm over here on the Friday night shows doing this stuff. We do it a bit differently. So I want to give a special shout out to the top 5 patrons for Talk Heathen. And those patrons are Eric Tweet, CJ Dennis, Dingleberry Jackson, Balaam's Donkey, Paul Lean, or Leia, excuse me. And the honorary mention for this week as well is the Great North American Dingaloo. So thank you guys for donating on patreon.com/Talk Heathen to me. You guys are awesome. Sorry about that, crew. They were like pinging me to get those patrons. So glad we got that out of the way. So now we can get to our call here. David, you're back with us on Talk Heathen. What's up? David, you still there?
We might have to pull him back in.
Oh, looks like he is.
I just pulled him.
Oh, thank you for doing
David!
that. Appreciate it.
I'm still here.
There we go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, how you guys doing?
All right.
Yeah, doing all right.
All right.
Yeah.
What's up?
Hey, I called about this. Yeah, I called someone about this on Truth Wanted quite a while back and talked to Puck and Ethan about it. But this was about the fundamental misinterpretations of science.
Okay. What about it?
Okay, this revolves kind of around 2 concepts, and it's really about the Big Bang, but it's dealing really with the CMDR. And I have notes on this, but they're on the Atheist experience, and I can read them to you, but I'll just try to wing it here. The CMDR is interpreted as being proof of some kind of expansion, right?
Maybe.
Of the cosmos.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they use the redshift as interpretation of an expansion of the cosmos, right?
Right.
So that really deals with the star system.
Yeah, as in distances between planetary bodies are growing like farther and apart. Yes, that's what the redshift demonstrates. But
right, that's matter measuring expansion.
Yes.
So that's what they use as their claim of expansion of the cosmos. But we know that's, if anything, that would be evidence of expansion of the star system and not of space itself.
No. I mean, I again, I'm not an expert on this, and Jimmy has his hands over his face for those of you who are listening and can't see the video. But yeah, like I think this goes into young Earth creationist territory here. People who kind of talk about the different interpretations of what the redshift means. Again, not a complete expert on this, but there's more than just the redshift that does explain the expansion of the cosmos. So, we could talk about this all day, but there's plenty of other evidence that would suggest that the universe is. If you want,
we could engage in a pedantic argument about what is the definition of space. And David, do you believe in God? I just want to do this one time in the show.
I'm a hardcore Jesus fanatic.
Okay. Which version of Jesus? Which branch of Christianity are you into?
The true version of the Bible, which would be, I came to Jesus through the Calvary Chapel under Chuck Smith in Costa Mesa, California, under Greg Laurie.
Cool. I don't know any of these people, and frankly, you could have made up names and I'd have given it to you. What converted you to Christianity? Because apparently it was physics, right?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. Then
no,
we
what
can
converted
drop
me to Christianity was...
We can 100% drop the notion that this physics conversation matters at all. What converted you?
So you don't want to hear about the fundamental errors in science. You want to hear about how I came to Jesus?
David, listen, and I mean this.
Okay.
I genuinely do not want to talk about the fundamental misunderstandings of science. I want to hear about how you came to Jesus. I mean that with every being in my non-existent soul.
Okay.
Cool. Let's do it.
I guess I'll have to believe you then. So
thank
when
you.
I was 18,
honestly, that's so so courteous. Go ahead.
Okay, you guys, look, I was not a Christian. I was not raised a Christian, okay? My dad was a German Catholic. My mom was Presbyterian, but because the priest had told my dad that all his sons were bastards because my mom was not Catholic, they didn't raise us in any form of religious upbringing. I wasn't taught. I mean, I'm sure I learned something. I heard something about God and watched the 10 Commandments on TV and liked it, but I had no idea what God was or who Jesus was, okay?
Hey, you and most of Christianity.
I didn't understand.
There.
No, I wasn't a Christian. I was an atheist.
Well, okay.
I didn't believe in Jesus, okay?
Sure.
Just because you don't believe in Jesus doesn't mean you're an atheist, but I
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah, well, I didn't have any idea what a God was, so I was an
Sure.
atheist. Okay,
Fine.
but
Fine.
anyways, all right, I didn't learn anything about psychology or philosophy or God or science. I didn't take any position on any of it. Okay.
Okay.
So by the time I was 18, I was pretty much a basket case from doing drugs and sexual immorality or whatever. This my basic sinful nature, and so I was really struggling. I was so bad I could hardly walk down the street. I mean, my depth of perception was so screwed up. I looked like a clown walking down the street.
Mm-hmm.
I could see like tunnel vision. I couldn't function. I had total. That's one of the reasons I think why.
Hey Dave, can I turn what's
Yeah.
going to be another 5 minutes of this story into 10 seconds? And then I met Jesus, and I no longer was a drug addict. Okay, then we got to wrap this up. Let's get this because I can see where it's going. So let's just try and take it somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unfortunately, we are at the tail end of the show here. So
I'm just telling you want to know. Okay, I started hearing about Jesus by the time I was about 18 from my girlfriend and different people. And because of all the problems I had, I needed Jesus. That's true. So, and I did cry out to Jesus. And when I cried out to him, the phone was already ringing and my dad was on the phone. I've told this story numerous times, probably here. So anyways, so I'm just rehashing the same thing I've told you before. I had something new for you, but you want to hear the old stuff. So I came to Jesus because I had a need and he provided. He provided.
Okay.
So,
and is Mormonism true?
I knew the first time I read the Bible that Jesus was God. Huh?
Hey, how is Mormonism true?
No, I learned about Mormonism when I first became a Christian. I worked at a Mormon company.
That's okay. I just needed the answer. I don't need to know who you've met who's Mormon or anything. So Mormonism's not true. Is Hinduism true?
No.
Is Islam true?
I'm not saying these things.
Yeah,
Huh?
no, I know. All I need right now for this exercise is the yes or no. Is Islam true?
No.
All right, so let me tell you this. What you've just provided me is why you became a Christian is actually less impressive than stories I have heard from all three of those. In the case of Mormonism, I would say probably the most impressive one I ever heard was a person whose leg was miraculously no longer broken, and that's when they realized Mormonism was true. There's other ones that are pretty, but let's go with the ones that person's probably just completely lying. So let's go with ones where people actually believe it's true. People who, when they called out asking if the Book of Mormon and the Bible were true, actually felt they heard or could feel the voice of God saying, give your life to this for the rest of your life. To tell you the truth, my own past, I have a story that's kind of like that, where I went to the Mormon General Conference, and upon hearing a bunch of people sing hymns over top of the voice of a protester, what I thought was my soul was filled, and I had this unbelievable rush that I did not question for a moment. This is God saying, this is where I belong. I have had Muslim friends tell me literally almost word for word your exact story. I've had Hindu acquaintances, because I actually don't know that I have a single Hindu friend in my life, but I've met some Hindus who have also similar experiences. all of you have these stories about the time that God basically just came, or a God just came and spiritually punched you in the face, and from that moment on, not believing was no longer even a choice. And by the way, I was an atheist beforehand. Why should I believe yours over the Mormons?
Okay,
or the Muslims,
look,
or
Jimmy,
the Hindus?
I am not Okay, Jimmy, look, I do not deny that the Mormons or the Hindus or the Islamists have had spiritual experiences. I'm not denying that. You are.
No. Actually,
I
you
admit
are
that
too.
they're having
You are
spiritual
too.
experiences.
You may not be
No,
denying
I'm
that they're
not.
having the
I know I'm not.
experiences, David. David, listen. You may not be denying that they have the experiences, but you made the mistake earlier in this in saying that you believe in the one true version of Christianity. And all of these people now have their same assertion, but for their religion, that they know the actual one true God. And all of them, including yours, is based on this experience that has a ginormous emotional component and has a my life changed component. So the problem is, at the conclusion of all of your stories are answers that cannot exist as true at the same time. And this is why I started by asking you whether or not each of those religions are true or not, because none of those people are going to say anything different than you as far as like, well, it was a spiritual experience, but I could see how there's a religion out there that might be even more true than what I've found, which is the only thing you could potentially defend is, no, they had a spiritual experience. They just didn't have mind, so they didn't get all the way to the truth.
They didn't interpret their experience right. So and that's another thing to point out, is that if people can, like, that by itself shows that people can interpret their spiritual experiences, quote unquote, wrong. Right. So if that's even in the realm of possibility, then how do we even know that your spiritual experience is more valid than others? Because if we're sharing these stories about all these miraculous things that have happened of people of different faith denominations, it sounds like we need something better than personal anecdote. And we do.
I realize, David, I might be coming off as unkind. I do want to tell you, what I'm describing to you is the thing I had to get over for myself too, because I thought my own spiritual experiences were also the most important spiritual experiences anybody ever had in the existence of the universe, which is why it's also important to me to cut through them when a person comes in and goes, y'all, God exists because physically you don't even, I mean, the red shift thing that you're not even an expert on, they're saying it's this when it should be this. And then we cut down to, that's not anything that ever played into your conversion of a religion to a religion. Your conversion to a religion was a significant spiritual experience, which I totally understand how compelling those can feel, but you don't yet have the value, apparently, to actually confirm you had a spiritual experience and that it wasn't a big emotional thing. And I got to tell you, bud, I was a theist. If we're going to go with the I was an atheist and then converted to out, I was a theist when my drug habit began, and it was secular therapy that made me no longer a drug addict, not coming to Jesus. So there are ways to change your life for the positive without needing a Jesus. And I'm not going to say that just because my life changed so much and got so much better because I became an atheist, that is not at all, even a little bit, proof that atheism is the true worldview.
Well, first off, I'm not agreeing with you that your life is better, but
yeah, okay, fine. Go fuck yourself. You're wrong.
I was making about.
I don't care now, because you literally just went from, I'm not even going to justify my own stuff. And I tried to pull back my mean and go like, okay, fine, whatever. That's where things honestly, like, I'm like getting to the point of having to stop seeing red. Don't fucking tell me what my life experience is, because you don't fucking know who I am. That's where I was ready to hear you out, ready to hear your justification. And then you want to go with, no, your life's actually worse now. Seriously, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know this is Talk Heathen. Y'all probably don't want this many fights in the show. No, I won't be invited back.
I think it's warranted, Jimmy. I think it's warranted because it is. I've gotten this before. Obviously, you just got it. I mean, lots of people got it, saying that somehow our lives are more messed up or more awful now because we're non-believers. But I agree with you, Jimmy. My life is better now. I don't go chasing after illusions. I don't go trying to find my meaning in spiritual experiences that I keep constantly trying to replicate, wondering why isn't this working? Why aren't I good enough? Why can't I get rid of these sinful thoughts that I'm having? And then realizing, oh, I'm just another human being on this earth trying to figure it all out. That gives me an immense amount of peace. And
what really sorry, I have to get this out. I'm just so angry. What really pisses me off is that the moments right before that, I had all but agreed without directly saying it that your life, your quality of life, how you feel about your life is probably better. Because basically I said, like, your life is better after finding theism. Mine is better after finding atheism. Neither are proof. And his response is, yours isn't actually better. I just accepted your own report from your own life, and you're going to drag that out? Seriously, go. Like, the only argument that would have pissed me off more is if you would have been like, Jimmy, I hear all of that, but come on. You know deep down that I'm right. That's the only one that in that moment would have pissed me off more.
Yeah, I have no doubt that people had their lives improved because of they're doing stuff in the religious community and stuff. But like you said, to your point, that doesn't demonstrate the truth of things. We can talk about how great our atheist lives are, but it doesn't demonstrate the actual truth of our beliefs. But anyway, this is just we're just beating a dead horse here, I think, at the end here. But that's okay, because we are at the tail end of Talk Heathen. First, I want to give a special thanks to you, Jimmy, for being on the show with us. Where can people find you at?
The number one place I want to recommend, obviously I'm Jimmy Snow. So if y'all look for me, if you want my specific channel, I do a lot more political and social commentary, though I still do my segment, Dear Mr. Atheist, periodically, at least once a week. But right now, the thing I'd want to promote the most is our channel, The Line. If you like these call-in shows, there's a lot more of those call-in shows.
Yep.
That's, I love this graphic. There's a lot more of these. Tonight, Nate Brody and Dragnot are hosting the Sunday show. And that's going to be awesome. And then, like I said, Matt Dillahunty has his recurring show every Wednesday. So The Line is what I would promo the most.
Yeah. Well, I want to say too, I was kind of burying the lead earlier, because earlier I said I'm not used to hosting Talk Heathen, which is true, but that won't be true for much longer, because I am officially a new host of Talk Heathen. So I am also going to be a part of the rotating lineup of great hosts that you see here. So if you like seeing me today, then great. You'll see more of me later. So I'm excited for that opportunity as well. So you can also catch me on Friday nights on Truth Wanted as well. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about how you can support this particular show. There's a couple different ways you can do it. Again, you can become a member by clicking the join button in the video below. You get the cool little emoticons and stuff. It's really awesome. It's one of the many ways you can help us out. But another way is through our Patreon. We have patreon.com/Talk Heathen to me. If you become one of our top 5 patrons, you do get that shout out during the show. And we also have a channel that houses all the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. It's tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. So check that out if you haven't already. And you can become a part of the Talk Heathen community in our fan run Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/group/Talk Heathen FG. So if you want to continue the discussion after the show, Jimmy, Discord?
Off the Discord, hell yeah.
Off the Discord. We're going to go to the Discord, the Atheist Community of Austin Discord after the show. Link for that is in the description, so check that out. It's probably going to be in the chat too if you're watching this live. And you also want to make sure to watch the next show coming up on the stream here, the Nonprofits. That's coming at 3 o'clock Central Time. So tune in for that if you want some awesome, good discussion. We also need to thank the wonderful, awesome Crew Cam. The crew is the help. The crew is the help. No, the crew are the people that help make this show happen every single week. They're not the help. They are the people. They are the backbone of these shows. They make this thing happen all the time. And I want to thank them especially for today's show. You guys are awesome and keeping me on track for doing the Talk Heathen procedures and not the Truth Wanted procedures, which are a little bit different. So thank you guys for keeping me on track with that. We want to give out some love rings as well. Can we get some love rings out here, crew? Are we ready for some love rings? Love rings to you guys. Thank you guys for calling into the show and making this thing happen. You guys are awesome, and you're the reason why this show exists. This show couldn't function without people calling in. So thank you to everybody who called in today. Any last words of wisdoms before we do our tagline tonight, Jimmy?
I just want to know if I set the record for Talk Heathen hangups. Does anyone know? I think I had 4. Was it 3 or 4? I feel like after this, I know that like most people in the live chat were on my side on them, but after I'm gonna be like, I should have let them talk a little more.
I don't know.
That last one made me so mad. I'm still fuming.
You've probably getting more hangups than some of the spam callers that reach out to people, right? I mean, I don't know. But anyway, Jimmy, appreciate you being on. Thanks for hosting with me. You and I are going to be in the Discord in just a second here. But before we go, whether or not you believe, if you are an essential worker, we want to thank you. And if you don't believe, this is your community. And if you do believe, we don't hate you. We're just not convinced. I was waiting for you to do it with me, Jimmy.
Oh, I forgot what it was. My tagline is fade to black. I keep it to 3 words.
Well, that's all right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. Have a good rest of your day. See you next week.